Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our Ask the Experts on Windows and Devices. My name is Joe Lurie. I'm a product manager with Microsoft 365, and we're going to get started right now. It's really, the sun's blinding me coming through my window, so I hope the glare off my head doesn't blind anybody else, which you'll see soon. So how to engage with the experts? We have a lot of experts with us today, and you'll notice in your in this Teams window, you'll see a chat bubble. You can use that chat bubble to ask us questions. Some of the questions we'll answer text-based. Some of the questions we'll read right on the air, and we'll answer them for you right on the air. Make sure you do upvote your favorite questions, and we'll so we know that they should be answered on air if possible. So one thing I'm going to ask is I'm going to ask everyone basically to be decent human beings to each other. We are recording this session. Please don't spam, don't post inappropriate comments. We have a code of conduct, and the code of conduct is right here. We're also going to publish this in the chat window if we haven't already, so I don't have to read this to you. So as I said, we have a lot of experts here. I'm the least important person in this room, and I'm in the bottom right corner. We have experts in everything from Microsoft Endpoint Manager to Windows deployment and servicing, security, test-based, Microsoft Edge, Microsoft Surface devices. So we have a lot of experts. So make sure you do type in those questions as you think about them. And my first question, while we wait for the questions to start popping in, I'm going to ask Colleen this question because Microsoft Edge is so popular these days. What are some of the best features coming to Microsoft Edge? If you're allowed to talk about the ones coming up soon, I would love to hear about it. I saw something about vertical tabs, but I don't see it in my own Edge, and I'm waiting for that. What are some of the cool features about Microsoft Edge?
Yes, hi, thanks, Joe. My name is Colleen Williams, and I'm a program manager on the Edge team, like Joe said. So we have lots of exciting features. We have features that target the IT admins, features that target end users. At the end of the day, we are all end users. Features that target our beloved security people within all of us. From a productivity and user perspective, vertical tabs is super popular. Tabs in the browser is just something that we all have. If you stopped and actually counted how many tabs you have in the browser, it can get a little unruly. So vertical tabs is there. That has been an experimental feature, so I believe, and I'd have to just double check the version 89 release that's coming out on Thursday, that should be up and running 100%. But our release notes on our website will have that. Vertical tabs is there, collections, multiple profiles, so you can use one browser and you can have your work profile and your personal profile, so you can keep your work and your personal life separate. And that, I mean, in today's day and age where we are sitting in front of a machine nearly 24 hours a day, it doesn't really matter if you're doing personal or work. And so being able to kind of keep that life separate while you're still using one machine, that's super important. From a security perspective, we've got Endpoint DLP, that shipped in October, Windows Defender Application Guard. So keeping, we're not sitting in a physical office surrounded by our physical walls anymore. So you need to keep the corporate data and user safe at all times. From an IT admin perspective, we've got IE mode. So, everybody's favorite browser, IE11, that every enterprise needs and has to use. You can now use one browser, but still being able to have backwards compatibility with IE mode. So we've got lots of great features coming up. PDF in the browser, more improvements are happening with PDF. We just published a blog post on Monday. I could go on and on, but I don't think it's all about me for the next 30 minutes. So please just ask more questions about Edge and I'll happily answer.
Thanks so much for all of that. And we'll have links that we can publish where you can learn more information. My next question is going to go to Steve, and this question is from Simon. Thank you for your time today. Are there any plans on releasing Windows for ARM devices to the public? And I'm not going to read the rest of that question, but Steve, what can you tell us about Windows 10 on ARM? I know it's one of your babies.
When we actually have, Joe, we have quite a suite of Windows on ARM64 devices. Not only first-party devices with our Surface Pro X, but we have a wide variety of OEM partners. Samsung, we have historically the Lenovo Mix, HP as well, and even Asus for the lower cost devices. They all have superb battery life. With the native Teams client, I've actually adopted as my primary device, and it's the device that I'm on right now, complete with eye contact feature. It's the Surface Pro X running Windows 10 on ARM64.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the Windows 10 on ARM and all the devices it's starting to come out on. I have a question for Hina because it's Windows Autopilot and I love Windows Autopilot. And this is from Anonymous. Anonymous asks us, for autopilot provisioning, has there been any consideration to offer a self-deploy profile for hybrid join devices instead of just AAD?
There is a longer answer to that question. Short answer is no. Longer answer is a more structured approach towards thinking about autopilot, which is modern provisioning, and tying it to hybrid, which is something that I'm encouraging more and more customers now to think about how to start moving to AADJ versus bringing autopilot, a cloud-driven technology, to an on-premises technology. There is a lot to unpack there. I understand that. Having said that, I'm totally open to any questions, offline on the gaps and so on and so forth with regards to the on-prem hybrid AADJ to AADJ journey. So like I said, short answer, long answer. Short answer, no. Long answer, there is a lot that enterprises need to think about in terms of moving in the direction of AADJ.
Great, thanks so much for that. I was about to ask Aria a question about Windows Update for Business and it disappeared from my view, so I'm going to ask her a different question. So Aria, Anonymous asks this, what has been the feedback regarding driver deployment with Windows Update for Business? And do we have any plans to add a required option and Intune update rings? Can you talk about that and maybe talk about the new deployment service?
Yeah, I'd be super excited to. So for those of you who aren't aware, we just announced two big things at Ignite via the docs pages, which hopefully someone can share out in the chat. But basically, we announced that we are bringing some new controls to Windows Update for Business. And we're doing this through a change in the architecture. So the current Windows Update for Business technologies are relying on group policies and configuration service provider or CSP policies, which get set on the client, and the client then communicates those to the server upon scan. These new technologies, or the Windows Update for Business deployment server, works a bit differently. It allows the management tool or you to communicate directly with the server without having to tell the device anything. This gives you much greater control over the update offering, whether that's the new driver control that we're announcing to have a better understanding of which drivers are being offered to the devices, which is amazing since right now it's either all drivers or no drivers from Windows Update, or that's managing your feature updates, such as the new Intune feature update deployment policy, which lets you say exactly which feature update version you want your devices to move to and stay on. Please go check them out. They're super cool. We're excited about them, and we've seen a great, amazing response from all of the admins who are in both of the previews.
That's awesome, thanks. And I do see a few more autopilot and Windows Update for Business questions in there. I have a lot of experts and a lot of questions coming in. And this question, so we'll try to get to all of those, if not on screen through text space. I have a question here that I'm going to ask for Zach. And this is from Michael Friedberg asked, will there be an option for the reports, device compliance reports, to include a field for which setting or policy value is triggered in non-compliance? Is this something that you can help with, Zach?
Not sure I'm fully following that question. Can you read that to me one more time?
Will there be an option for the reports, device compliance report, to include a field for which setting or policy value is triggering the non-compliance, if there's a non-compliance? Is that something that you can help with your?
Yeah, not necessarily in my scope, but maybe one of the other endpoint manager guys on the call might have more information.
If I could quickly jump in.
That would be great, Aria. Thanks.
So one thing that is similar in that space that we are thinking about is one of the biggest issues we see, and we see this a lot, is folks, especially folks moving from on-prem to the cloud, will often find that during that movement, they have issues, and many of these issues are due to policy conflicts. And that means that either they're having conflicts because they set two group policies that don't actually work together, or they have latent group policies that they configured back in Windows 7 that interfere with a CSP that they're setting from Intune or another third-party mobile device management tool. And so one of the things we've been asked by quite a few admins for is analytics that shows you alerts or things like that to help you understand when devices are in this state of having conflicting policies that interferes with either compliance or makes devices unable to update. And so that is feedback we have taken. We have nothing to announce this time, but it's something we are thinking about as we work towards analytic solutions.
Thanks for that explanation. I'm sorry, Zach, to put you on the spot. Thanks, Harry, for that. Steve, I have a question about MSIX, and I know that used to be in your realm, and I'm hoping that it still is. Justin asks, any updates to MSIX and app attach compatibility and features in Windows Enterprise? And that's for you, Steve. Yep.
Actually, John Venzel, who is our MSIX lead, has just published on the tech community a whole slew of MSIX updates. I would encourage everybody who is still interested in MSIX as well to actually also take advantage of the MSIX packaging tool Insider program as well, because they've been increasing the cadence of that updating process. I will make sure that the link to all of the various MSIX updates from the recent tech community blog is made available in the chat as well.
Thanks so much for that. Danny, I'm going to ask you a question that starts off talking about config manager, but it gets into also thing about updating. So this actually might pop over from you to Ari at some point during the answer. But Sam asks, question for config manager, would there be improvements to make config manager update, hotfix, rollout update? We have a convoluted change system. Applying update multiple times can be challenging. Can you talk about with configuration manager with the updates?
That's going to be an Aria question.
I actually thought maybe it might go to Aria. I thought I'd start with you, and I figured it would end up with Aria.
Yeah, no, I'm going to give it to Aria.
I can do my best. Joe, could you actually repeat the first part of that question?
Yep. Will there be improvements made for config manager update, hotfix, and rollup updates? We have a convoluted change system. Applying update multiple times can be challenging.
Understood. I would say that we are constantly trying to improve the way that we are doing our updates and trying to make that process as seamless as possible. Well, I can't announce any changes that will help with you in the moment that I know about. If you could provide more details in response to your own question about the processes you're hitting right now that are the biggest pain points, I would love to take a look, because we're always thinking of ways to improve.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And really, that's a great tip as well, to add more commentary to your question as well, just a little more clarity. I saw a question on Surface, so I'm going to ask for Frank. I don't see it in here anymore, so it had to do with Surface and Duo about when we announced first announced them at a Microsoft event. There was going to be a Duo Android version. Can you talk, Frank, about Surface, the Neo, the Duo?
Sure. Yeah, so we've now launched Duo back in July, and it's shipping across the world in a number of different locations. I actually have a beautiful Surface Duo with a cool red bumper around it here in my hand. It is my go-to device. It's the only device that I use. I love it. But we also at the same time announced the Neo. If you remember back then, where we actually at Surface, we announced a lot of products that day, like Surface Laptop 3 and Pro 7 and Duo and Neo. But what we had a little change within our operating system direction within 10X. 10X was going to be geared as a dual screen operating system, and we actually changed that. There's a blog post that Panos put out back, oh boy, about 4 or 5 months ago now. And essentially 10X now directed directly on a single screen solution. So we, at that time, shelved Neo. It's not the end of Neo. It may come back at a later point. I don't have any other data to share around that. I love the form factor of Neo. It would be a Windows 10 device. But for now, this beautiful Surface Duo running Android 10 is an amazing solution for productivity, as well as just your day-to-day go-to device. Great,
thanks for answering that. I appreciate it. And yeah, I love the I had for a little while, I had my own Duo, and then I had to give it back. I had it for testing, and I had to give it back. So I do miss that. I'm going to ask a question for Ravi. I thought I saw a question about cloud config in here. I know we announced that last month or so. I don't see that question now. Ravi, what can you tell me about cloud config and some of the things we're doing to make that even better?
Hey, thanks, Joe. My name is Ravi. I'm a PM on the Endpoint Manager team, worked on cloud config. Just at a really high level, Windows 10 and cloud configuration is a device configuration for Windows 10 devices that we recommend to set up any Windows 10 Pro Enterprise or Education device as a cloud optimized endpoint. We hear a lot of feedback from customers that a lot of the times end users just need a simply configured device without a heavy-handed configuration with a lot of complex apps or agents, just with the apps that they need in terms of browsing and productivity to be successful in their roles. And that's what Cloud Config aims to provide for our customers. It's basically, you can pick it up today at aka.ms/cloud-config, and you'll find there a step-by-step guide that tells you exactly how to use Endpoint Manager to deploy the right policies and the right applications to provide the streamlined, simplified experience for your end users. If there's more questions on Cloud Config, happy to take them in the chat or talk about them here. But at a high level, we think it's going to be great for customers to empower those end users that really just need a simple, secure device to get their jobs done successfully.
Thanks so much for that. And you know, I was part of your rollout with Cloud Config, and I think it's fantastic. And we have a session as well in our video hub, and we'll have a link to that in the chat window as well. We can learn more about Cloud Config. Hina, I see a question about Autopilot with Surface Hub. Can you talk about that? If Autopilot's coming to Surface Hub, or if it's available today?
It is not available today, but it is in our backlog. Look out for more updates in the near future in terms of timeline and roadmap.
All right, thanks so much. I knew I heard something, so yeah, probably a roadmap item that I was thinking about. Colleen, I have a question from Anonymous about Edge and bringing a drop-down feature in the address bar to Edge to select recent sites.
It's almost like you're in my mind, Joe. I was reading that question. I actually have pinged a colleague. I don't have any information about whether or not the drop-down feature. I think you're trying to solve the problem of, hey, you want to access recent sites and you'd like an easier way of doing it. And that is a problem we all have. I'm not certain how we plan on resolving that, but I'd love for you to make sure you file feedback directly into the browser to ask more about that, and really appreciate the feedback.
And with that, how do you provide feedback right in the browser?
Yeah, so in the 3 dots up in the right-hand corner, there is a help and feedback button about third to the bottom. And
Great.
There's a send feedback, and you just type in your information. If you leave your email address, your contact information, which is optional, you will get an email about the item that you filed, whether that be a bug or a feature request, and you can follow along as to what's happening with it throughout its journey.
Great, thanks for that. Rob, I'm going to ask you a question from Anonymous. Anonymous has been busy typing in all these questions recently. Anonymous is asking a question about MDT, and even though we love Autopilot, we do know that some customers are still using MDT, the market's still using it. So the question is, we see that the market is still using MDT to create dynamic LTI images as light touch. We perform tech refresh with Dell computers and have to continue using USMT with MDT, but the trend is no longer to migrate profiles. Do you see an issue with provisioning from the cloud? Let's see, it's a long question. But the trend is no longer to migrate profiles, but we see that there are users who do not adopt OneDrive yet and have all their info on their PC. How do you see the issue of provisioning from the cloud for cultural security issues? So if we are not saving to OneDrive, do you see any issues right now? You know, we're still using MDT, Rob?
Thanks, Joe. My name's Rob York. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team. So I'm going to answer the question I think I read here. First one is to kind of address, MDT. We definitely see a significant pull over the past few years of customers moving to Config Manager. That's very much still developed, and we build features and add new functionality there. I think, to be honest, it comes down to if you're using USMT and don't have the cloud backups through OneDrive and things like that, then USMT is probably still the way to go. But I think really what this boils down to is how do we make customers use OneDrive? And there's a couple of different tools in your arsenal there. Probably the biggest one is known folder move. So OneDrive introduced a functionality, I think 2 years ago at this point. So you can create policy that migrates a custom or an end user's documents from a device into OneDrive, so you can back up. The other tool that you probably have in your arsenal is also forcing the customer to move to OneDrive if that's the direction that you want to go, and that's usually just down to policy. And the most effective I've seen with organizations is, hey, if it's not in this place, it won't be on your next device. You see end users that put things into all known different places on the C drive and temp drive. I myself favor C temp / delete me, but I know that they're not backed up. That's a decision I make because I don't want them to move. But it's a combination of technology and process to get end users to the position that you need them to be for digital transformation.
Thanks for that. And for those of you that haven't used OneDrive known folder move yet, saving things to your desktop automatically saves to OneDrive. Saving things to your documents automatically saves to OneDrive. So even if you're not used to saving to OneDrive, saving it to those desktop even automatically saves that right up to the cloud. I'm looking at a question here about Intune, and Rob, I'm going to come back to you for this one. In Intune, will there be an option to pre-assign device category to a computer when it had not yet run through autopilot, and therefore lacks the full Intune account?
Do you want me to take that, Rob?
Yeah, that might be a Hino.
Oh, yeah.
Answer is yes. You can create group tags in Intune even without using autopilot, and then use the group tag to create dynamic groups.
And so that's even before it's run through that autopilot process, correct?
That's correct.
Great. I'm going to ask this to Arya. Stephen asks, and if you can't answer it, that's great too. We'll find someone that can. Are you looking at Windows kernel updates to allow processes to be pinned to large core, small core, forthcoming Intel Alder Lake or ARM CPUs? Let's talk about like updating kernel updates.
That is a fascinating question outside the scope of things that I know. Apologies. Anyone know the answer? Otherwise, we can follow up later.
Well, yeah, I think we can follow up later. And as I'm scrolling through these, and I'm afraid of some dead air while I look to read so many questions, I'm going to ask Frank another question about Surface. And really, it's about some of the new Surface devices that are just that are coming out, and what you're allowed to talk about with those devices.
Sure. So you probably saw that one of the exciting announcements was that we actually announced the Surface Pro 7. One of the coolest thing about the Surface Pro 7 is the removable SSD on the device. I actually was just doing a little class on how to remove this SSD. This is running the latest 11th gen Intel i7 as well as i5, as well as built-in LTE capability. So pretty powerful device. Don't have too much to share about things that are coming in the future, but know that we are not done. If you look at Surface, I will say as a busy person on the Surface marketing team, I actually wish we had less devices, but we don't. We have a ton of devices from the Surface Duo all the way up to the 50-inch, as well as if I turn my screen, 85-inch Surface Hub that's available now to ship throughout the world. So we're always announcing new products. Look for new products from Surface almost every 6 months, and we'll continue to crank those out. It's an exciting time to be on the Surface commercial side because we're really geared in towards solving those commercial problems that our customers are having, from frontline worker to healthcare to finance, all the different pieces. It's a great place to be.
Great, thanks. And it is an exciting time, as Panos would love to say as well. And I'm gonna let Danny and Zach kind of fight about this next question. And the question is, what's the difference between endpoint analytics and desktop analytics? I know each of you have your love for one or the other. So we'll start with Danny, and then we'll go over to Zach. What's the difference between desktop analytics and endpoint analytics?
All right, so I'm Danny Giller. I'm from the customer acceleration team. When it comes to desktop analytics and endpoint analytics, desktop analytics, think of using that from an upgrade scenario, upgrading from 7 to 10, 10 to 10, processes like that. If you're looking for endpoint analytics, it's going to give you more data points about your estate to help you make decisions. I won't steal any of Zach's thunder. So Zach, go ahead and chime in.
Thank you, Danny. So as Danny said, Zach Dvorak, program manager on our endpoint analytics team. The way we think about endpoint analytics is as a solution in the end user experience space. So we're looking at insights related to things like startup performance, getting your devices from power on to where users can be productive. The new features we just announced the other day, application reliability, restart frequency. These are going to sort of be ongoing features related to the day-to-day end user experience. And then, of course, as Danny mentioned, desktop analytics is going to be laser focused on those Windows feature updates. So there are some similar insights. We do look at things like application compatibility. We have a little bit of information about application crashes. But in desktop analytics, all of those insights are centered around the concept of a feature update. Whereas in endpoint analytics, we're looking at the more ongoing steady state end user experience.
Thanks, and thank you both for that. And I get that question a lot as well. So I'm glad that we were able to do that today on the air. And Rob, I'm going to ask you this question because I know you love to hear this one. As rumors go, we've heard that Endpoint Manager may eventually become obsolete and as things progress with Intune in the cloud. Can you provide opinions on the life and advancements to Endpoint Manager in the years to come?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions. It's not one we've had to answer in a little while. First things, let's kind of define what Endpoint Manager is. Endpoint Manager is the suite of products that includes Microsoft Intune, Configuration Manager, as well as System Center Configuration Manager, now just Configuration Manager, Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager, but also things like the analytics products that Danny and Zach were just fighting over, and Autopilot as well, crucially. So it's really the combination of all the management tools that Microsoft offer. What I think the question boils down to is, hey, is Config Manager going away? As I say, it was a question we had to deal with a fair amount over the past few years, mostly through our own doing. But the answer is no. We continue to invest in the breadth of Microsoft Endpoint Manager to allow customers to manage the devices in the way that they want. We believe that the direction that all customers should go in is to become attached to the cloud. But that doesn't mean move to Intune necessarily. You know, we have co-management to allow you to bring the benefits of MDM enrollment, also functionality that we ship through our relatively recently announced and shipped tenant attach feature. So bringing config manager specific functionality to the cloud console, but it's still fundamentally on-prem. Some really cool functionality there. Timeline, we've demoed a significant amount over the past year at this point. But really, the underlying message is, use the cloud that brings you and your organization value. It shouldn't be that you feel pushed or pulled in any direction. It's just about use the cloud and get some of the huge value that the cloud offers. And I'll stick in the announcement a couple of resources because there was a question earlier on about what tenant attach is. Danny put together a great blog earlier this year, what we call the Big Three, which is about how you go about cloud attaching. But no, fundamentally, nothing's going away. All the functionality that you have and love today is definitely going to be around for many years to come.
Thanks so much. And I used to field that question all the time as well in my prior role. And even then I was saying, no, configuration manager, we keep developing it. I probably time for one more question. I'm going to ask Ricardo this. Anonymous asks, any plans on retiring IE or removing IE from the OS altogether in favor of Edge?
Hello, that's a great question. I'm one of the engineers here in FastTrack for Microsoft. So no immediate plans from my understanding. One of my colleagues can obviously step in and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there is no plans. A lot of organizations are still very dependent of items that need Internet Explorer, which means that right now, the big benefit is IE mode, being able to use one standardized browser so that end users aren't having to jump from one browser to another.
Okay, thanks so much. And it's a common question as well, so I'm glad we got to answer that one here as well. I think we're at time. I haven't been watching our moderators say, hey, we're at time. So I think we're at time. So we do have some resources for you. aka.ms Microsoft Ignite 2021/Windows for everything Windows at Ignite. aka.ms Microsoft Ignite 2021/MEM for everything MEM related at Ignite. And of course, our Twitter handles are here as well. So thank you so much to our 30 or so SMEs, our experts that joined us, and for all of you that joined us as well. Enjoy the rest of Ignite.